If you're trying to build wealth, at some point you stop asking what you should invest in and you start asking, what does a real portfolio actually look like? In this video, I'm actually going to walk you through exactly what I invest in. Now, let me preface it with, this is not every single account that I have, and I'm saving some of those for later. But here is the core structure of what I'm currently building and actually the reason why. Because for me, it's not about random picks. It's about building something that actually works long term. I think about my portfolio in two different parts. One, a foundation, and then a smaller portion of where I take calculated risk. That way, I'm always growing, but I'm also giving myself room for upside. So first is my Roth IRA, which I have with Robinhood. It is a more structured and long-term growth portfolio. I started this back on August 24th, 2025, and it's built mostly around ETFs. Things like SPMO, QQQQM, VGT, VTI. One thing I want to point out in my portfolio, especially for transparency, is that yes, there is overlap in my growth positions. Right now, I'm holding SPMO, QQQM, and VGT, which all lean heavily into large cap tech and momentum. And that overlap is actually intentional for this phase of my portfolio because I'm prioritizing growth while my portfolio is still relatively small. And that said, this isn't my long-term structure. As I move into Q2, where I'm going to rebalance around June, the plan is to start trimming back VGT and let SPMO and QQQM become the primary drivers of growth. That gives me similar exposure, but in a more efficient and less redundant way. So this is less about reacting to overlap and more about evolving the portfolio as it scales. Then I mix in SCHD and DGRO for dividends and stability, SPYI for income, IDMO, which is also there for momentum exposure. The goal here is very simple: consistent growth, diversification, and long-term compounding. Then I have my traditional IRA, which is with Fidelity. This one is much newer, which I started on December 24th, 2025, and it splits a little differently. About 60% of this is my foundation. You'll find funds like FGRIX, FDGFX, FITLX, FSMDX, and FZROX. And these have broad exposure, low cost, and long-term focus. But then I have about 25% allocated to the funds listed in the Follow the Watts white paper thesis. The link I have provided in the description of this video. These are higher risk with potential higher upside plays. These are things like RIOT, IREN, APLD, CIFR, GLXY, NBIS, and WULF. Companies tied to infrastructure, energy, and emerging tech trends. This is where I'm willing to take more risk because the rest of the portfolio is stable. So overall, it's not about picking one perfect investment. It's about structure, having a foundation, and then layering on top of it. If you're interested in future videos, I'll break down each part of these in more detail. Why I chose specific ETFs, how I think about allocations, and what I'm watching going forward. But this is the core of how I'm building some of my portfolios right now. If you're trying to go from paycheck to portfolio, this is what it actually starts to look like.